And this is your wish is your command, and it's how to basically manifest your desires.
Yeah, it takes, a lot of people are familiar with Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
Or in modern times, it's Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks, or The Secret, which talks about the law of attraction. And a lot of these books are good, and I actually recommend them, but they're missing key elements. And the major reason is the books that are written on success, I know most of the authors, as you do probably as well. And I've been on stage with them. I've been in their homes. I've talked to them on the phone. And none of these guys actually ran a business or started an enterprise. They made all their money selling books or audios or seminars on how to make money. That's where they made all their money. There was one guy who tried 3 businesses, went bankrupt 3 times, was living in the basement of his mother-in-law's house, called me up struggling, and he says, I figured out how to get rich. I go, how's that? He goes, I'm going to write a book on how to get rich. I go, but you went bankrupt 3 times. I know, but people will buy a book on how to get rich. While in his basement, he wrote a book on how to get rich, sold it online, and made over $1 million in the next 12 months. I said, but you're really a fraud, aren't you? I was kidding him because we knew each other. And he says, look, clearly this doesn't work, because if any of that stuff in the book worked, I wouldn't have gone bankrupt 3 times. But I know how to sell it, and people are so driven to want to make money, they'll buy it. And because I'm fed up with being broke. I don't care. Okay. And the book has some good information in it, but they're missing key elements that successful people do. I go to a place in Southern California called the Golden Door. There's 35 guys there. It's men's week. It's like a spa, and it's mostly women every week, but 6 weeks a year, it's men only. And these guys are worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. There's billionaires there. I can't mention names because it's kind of a private, men's club. I was at one of the weeks, and we kind of were adding up the net worth of everybody in there. It was almost $1 trillion. One guy was in charge of one of the largest hedge funds in the world. He was the founder, and everybody else put together. And that's a lot of money. And when you ask these guys, what do you do? What did you do when you first started? Did you do what's in this book? Did you do what's in that book? Did you do what's in this book? They laugh at you. They go, no. These guys don't know what they're talking about. They know about success, but they don't know success. This is what we do. And so there are some common denominators that very successful people will do that aren't in any of the books. And that's really what, look, I'm not a motivational speaker. And I had, we'll call it real businesses before I ever thought about writing this book or doing a seminar. That's not my business. My business was real businesses. And only because the people around me started making all this money, over 100 people became multimillionaires in my world. I mean, one guy was a UPS truck driver. Another gal came over from South Africa, and she was a file clerk at minimum wage. She went on to become multimillionaire in real estate. Another guy was flipping pizzas, sleeping on a blow-up mattress in his mother-in-law's house while he was trying to start. And they all became multimillionaires. So people started. Another guy was a travel agent, and he was living in a 1-bedroom apartment with his new wife, not making just barely making ends meet. And then he met me, and I started teaching him what to do. And he went off and started businesses doing hundreds of millions of British pounds a year in England. So people started saying, Kevin, what are you teaching these people? Because clearly it's creating success. Why don't you teach it like to other people? I said, that's not my business. That's not what I do. And it was only after so many years that people were hammering me, please teach it. I said, okay. So about 20 years ago now, I went into the Swiss Alps at one of the chalets. It was a big, huge compound, actually, of one of my brothers in the organization I was a part of called the Brotherhood. And I went there and I said, we're going to teach. We're going to bring 100 people in. We'll charge $50,000 for the weekend. So we'll get people that are serious. They can't be wealthy. They can't be millionaires. They got to be people who want.
How'd they afford $50K?
Well, that was the whole point. They had to figure it out. So we said, we want somebody who's serious. So they can't be a millionaire. They have to come up with the money. It's going to be a big sacrifice because we're going to see, does this actually work? So I brought them in, and to prove that what I was teaching was legitimate, I had the king of one country was a friend of mine there. I had president of the big organizations, global organizations that were there, very well known, billionaires, royal families, etc. And they basically gave the credibility because, who was I, that this is what we use in the highest levels of wealth in society around the world. And I taught for 2 days an algorithm, effectively, a 40-point algorithm on this is what creates success. There's actually a mathematical formula that I was taught back in my organization called the Brotherhood. And these points, if you do them, you get a score, and this will determine whether you produce what you want. You manifest your dream. Manifest is the big word today. Oh, we're going to manifest your dreams. You create wealth, you make money, you set a goal and achieve it. Those are the words that we used to say. Now it's manifesting. So I taught this for 2 days, and we entitled it Your Wish is Your Command, because your wish really can be your command. I recorded it. And then I went into the studio, and then I put it on CDs. Remember CDs? And we sold the CDs, and we would monitor these folks and said, what were the results? Well, over the next 5 years, the results were just astonishing. Virtually all of those 100 people in that room, all of them, starting from very low, all had a net worth of over $1 million in 5 years. Some of them went on to make tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And remember, these are people that tried everything else before. They went to this guy's seminar and this guy walking on fire and this and that. And it was like, look, nothing seems to be working. And when they went through this, they said, how come nobody else is teaching this or this or this or that? And I go, because they don't know about it. They know about success, but they don't know success. They were really never given the entire puzzle. When you think about, and guys, they're teaching how to make money seminars or how to manifest seminars. And they're always trying to come up with a new idea. I got to come up with something else to sell. I got to come up with a new idea. I just discovered this great thing, everybody. Pay me 10 grand for this. Oh, really? You just discovered it? You didn't know it? I'm not discovering anything, and I didn't make any of this stuff up or create it. I was taught it, and all I'm doing is sharing it. I was given the entire success puzzle, the entire thing. So all I do is now say, look, I have the whole puzzle. I'm not having to figure anything out new, and it's nothing that I'm creating. I'm just sharing with you, this is puzzle piece number 1. This is puzzle piece number 2. So as people go through the various puzzle pieces, they all connect because it's one puzzle. And I got the whole puzzle. Nobody has the whole puzzle. That whole puzzle is the 40-piece algorithm with everything in it. This is what causes and creates success. You can look at any person on the Forbes 400 list and lay out this 40-point algorithm and saying, are these guys doing it? And you don't have to know them. You can just read about them and you can ask ChatGPT and they'll say, show me that if this guy is using these things, which is what we did. And they say, yes, here's the evidence that they're following this. Then if you can take, Joe Lunchbucket over here who's struggling, a nice person who really wants to be successful, but just can't seem to get it going. And you can see, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Here's a perfect example. There was a guy who was struggling. He was teaching seminars on, get this, your words create your reality. That's what the seminar he was teaching. Kind of like Shad Helmstetter. What you say is what you get. Your tongue is a creative force. You're hung by the tongue. Okay.
Is that not true?
It's true. But here's,
I was going to say, I believe
it's
that.
100% true. He was teaching seminars on it, but here's what he would do. He'd look at a contract or look at a deal, and out of habit, he would say this, well, I have a concern here. A concern? That means you're coming from fear. He didn't even realize that he was using the word concern. And that word concern, when looking at a contract, was putting out a vibrational frequency of fear, and it was creating lack of success. You can't have fear and succeed, right? It's a counter intention to you wanting to succeed. Fear of losing, fear. So he had all this fear. I said, look at that same contract, You don't even know what you're saying. He said it out of habit. I said, change it. When you find something in the contract that you don't like, saying, hey, I found something in the contract I have some questions about. Or I found something in this deal that I'd like some clarification on. No fear there, right? If you say you have a concern, there's fear. If you say I want clarification, I have some questions, or here's a better one. I found something in the contract I think we can make better. All you have to do is change the words. It's the same thing. But that little distinction I'll tell you what happened with this guy, because he's been a friend of mine for 30 years. When I taught him that, he didn't even know he was saying the word concern like nonstop out of his mouth. And he said, Kevin, I say that word all the time. I go, yeah, that means you're putting out fear. I'm changing it. And every time I say it, I say cancel, and I replace it. Virtually within 3 months, he signed a $10 million deal, and that's profit in his pocket. And he said, I just made more money than I had in the last 5 years. And it's all because of changing that word. So that's a little distinction that you have to know.
How did you know it?
Well, I saw him because I know the guy. I see it happen all the time. He wasn't aware of his failure habit. So he didn't have that awareness. He wasn't conscious.
Is the word try?
Try is another one. If you use try, it's weak. That doesn't mean you're going to not succeed if you use try, but you can succeed faster if you make a say, I'm going to do it. That's it, period.
Yeah, I don't like the word try only because it kind of emits uncertainty.
Correct. It's like I might succeed or I might not. Now, yeah, you go as far as you can see. And when you get there, you see further. So that's true. But try is different than I'm going to do this.
Have you read The Science of Getting Rich?
Of course, Waddles. Exactly. And that's one of the original ones.
Yeah, he was before Think and Grow Rich.
Exactly. And there's even Charles Haniel, Master Key to Riches. And there was also, here's a book that's fantastic, by the way, written by a guy named Barnum. You know Barnum and Bailey Circus? P.T. Barnum, called The Way to Riches. No, The Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum, written in the 1800s. You read that book, it'll blow your mind. It's like everything that people are talking about today is in there, but there's more in there that nobody is talking about today. And it's a little thin book. And then here's another book, J. Paul Getty, How to Be Rich. He has a whole chapter in there on habits.
Are these on audio or are they like obscure books you can't find?
No, you can find How to Be Rich by J. Paul Getty. It's a paperback. Matter of fact, I have one back on my hotel. And I have the P.T. Barnum one, The Art of Money Getting. You can get it all over Amazon. And they're very small little books, but they're hard reads. Most people are going to have a hard time reading them because they're written in a different time and they're using words and syntax and grammar that people are not familiar with. So they're probably going to have a hard time grasping it. Well, that's the challenge.
The Art of Money Getting, and what was the other one? The
Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum and How to Be Rich by J. Paul Getty.
Well, he knew something about it.
And he was awesome. And he says rich people have a habit of thrift. Listen,
that screws me.
Yeah. But when it comes to business, sure, we like to spend money and enjoy our life. That's fine. But when we look at business, there's a habit that we will get into. And these habits are what determines our speed of success. And also when there's a downturn, whether or not we can handle the downturn.
Well, yeah, that's just prudence, really. But I like this stuff only because I find myself a student of it. Mm-hmm. Now, as I told you, this company in the proper hands would have been $1 billion company already. I say in the proper hands. I might be talking myself out of the $1 billion thing, but I also am open to telling what I believe is the truth. And the truth is, shit, I should have done some things I didn't do. I didn't know to do them. So at the end of the day, I still have succeeded. However, I measure it against potential. Like, I don't think I've succeeded. Like, I think I've screwed it up, even though it's still successful. people would say I'm successful, but in reality, knowing what I could have done, I say I haven't succeeded.
Do you know Zig? You ever heard of Zig Ziglar?
Of course.
Okay, so Zig was a good friend of mine. We traveled together, and Zig said it, I think, best. He said, "Success is not what you've done compared to what other people have done. Success is really what you've done compared to what you could have done."
Well,
and here's a perfect example. You have an incredibly successful enterprise. You have a gorgeous office. I'm so impressed with your office. I'm so impressed with your staff. I'm impressed with all the coffee machines you have. I mean, I'm walking around going, this is great. I love this. Incredibly successful. And compared to what other people have done, you're on top of the heap, right? But then what you just said it best, but you're thinking, but man, what I could have done. Okay.
Because I'm not thrifty. Like I could have way cheaper stuff, but I like the best. So I could have been thrifty. I could have done a lot of things, but I'm still successful. So when I hear like quotes like John Paul Getty, I always think to myself, well, am I the exception or is that bullshit?
No. Well, remember, thrift is defined differently in the time when Getty wrote it. If you look up in a dictionary today, the definition of thrift versus the dictionary when he wrote it and the time where he was using the word. In the beginning of a business, this is when you have to be thrifty. You have to basically not eat your seed corn. You've heard that phrase, right? You can't eat your seed corn. You have to plant it. But when you're making money, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
That's you don't have to be miserly your whole life and, not buy nice things. It's perfectly fine to have a nice car and to buy jewelry or nice clothes. And you can still be thrifty.
So I want to, I got a million questions. We could literally be here for hours and hours, but hopefully you'll come back and we'll do a session 2. Once it drops and your DMs blow up, because they will.
Okay.
Maybe you'll be like, dude, that guy's got some listeners, because I do have listeners. But I want to give them the ability to get rich with what I call manifestation, which a lot of people think is hocus pocus. But in reality, it's not really hocus pocus. It's the words that you're using. It's the beliefs that you have. It's the intentions that you set. It's the small shifts. I mean, your book's talking about it.
Right. It gives us specific things. And we talked about words. Let me give you a couple other points of this algorithm that all wealthy people do. And again, you're going to be shaking your head because you know this better than anybody. I was sitting with a bunch of guys, and I've known some of these guys for 30, 40 years. I mean, we've been friends forever. And I said, look, I used to own several planes years ago. I like private planes because I don't like going through the airports. So it's more like I flew here on a private jet because I like it's much nicer than going through the airports. You save a lot of time. Okay.
And it's just bitching.
It's bitching. But I can get more work done. I'm there with my wife and we're going through, we have our computers, we're having business meetings, we're getting things done. It's a productive 4.5 hours from Chicago on that plane. We have a big plane and it's very productive and we come very refreshed. It's perfect.